Howdy, today I'm going to be talking to you about the training experiments that I tried in 2025, what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I am neutral about or yet to decide whether I like or dislike. I'm going to talk to you about the reasons why I implemented them into my training, what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them. And this is all based off my own training experience, based off how it affected my performance throughout the year for a minimum of 2 to 3 months of everything that I talked about today. Uh, and yeah, and obviously there's going to be certain things in here that you will disagree with or agree with, or maybe you don't have an opinion on yet. But yeah, just keep in the back of your mind that this is what I've tried, so you can make a decision as to whether or not you agree with me, disagree with me, or want to try it out yourself, and that's what it's all about, essentially. So, first thing that I tried this year was dead stopped reps, and I was a fan of it. This is a big tick from me. Not for everything, but I was a huge fan of using it mainly for the first reason I brought it in was to keep certain exercises viable in my training program without having to add a shitload of additional weight via a gym pin, leg extensions being the main culprit. So I started maxing out the gym pin that I currently have in the leg extensions, and I wanted to be able to not have to buy an extended gym pin or a bigger gym pin and add more weight every single time. So I decided to do dead stop reps, and I was a huge fan of it for a couple of reasons. One was it obviously standardized the reps, so I knew that I had to come back to the starting point every single time, have a pause before going again. So obviously I had to also reduce load because it was quite difficult to, well, especially when you first start, it's a lot more difficult than just doing standard reps. So it was a huge fan. It kept my leg extension in the program without the need of a gym pin straight away. And then obviously now I'm probably back up to the weight that I was doing prior at the start of the year, but with dead stopped reps. So huge fan for that. Also was a decent fan of it for things like the stiff leg deadlifts that I do, bringing the bar back down to the ground, touching the plates, holding it for a second, paused, and then going again. I just found that some of my reps were getting a little bit sloppy or just looked a little bit different from each other week on week with stiff leg deadlifts. So yeah, I was a huge fan of it for that reason, and for that reason, for those two movements in particular, and potentially a couple of others, I will be keeping dead stock reps in. Um, Certainly don't see a need for it to be used in every single exercise, however. Preacher curl, bicep curls as well, I've been doing it for. Huge fan for that as well. Kind of reduces the ego lifting that I was potentially doing during the year for that exercise anyway. Training 5 days a week, this is a controversial one, was a no from me. This is completely individual, obviously. I'm sure there's a number of you that have developed some really good 5 day programs and have been following a 5 day training split for a long time and making really good progress. So for those of you, you can ignore me if you're absolutely killing it on it. But for me personally, I can't train 5 days a week and make the same progress that I do on a 3 or a 4 day a week training program. I tried multiple times throughout the year, just reducing a rest day and adding in an additional upper day, and then kind of just pushing through that week. But every single time I noticed it affected later sessions in following weeks, and I just couldn't keep up the same volume that I was trying to adhere to. So I guess yes, there's potential changes I could have made to the programming, but I think overall, I just think it's easier for me to do 4 days a week and continuously progress with a moderate amount of volume rather than forcing myself to go to the gym 5 days a week and having to reduce volume in all exercises to keep the same rate of progress that I could just do in 4. And honestly, I'd rather be in the gym less days than 5 days a week. So it's a no from me for the 5 day a week training splits. Training 4 days a week obviously leads me into that. I had previously done a stint for about 18 months of 3 days a week training, and it wasn't until the start of this year or maybe towards the back end of last year that I switched over to a 4 day a week training program. But I'm a huge fan of the 4 days a week. I think I'm even more of a fan of the 4 days training program than I am of the 3. I don't think it's any better than the 3 day a week training program in terms of progression and performance, or that I noticed anyway. I just pure enjoyment factor of having an upper body day and a lower body day rather than training every muscle group every training session 3 times a week was beneficial for me. There's certain muscle groups I think that I'm probably more effective to train 3 times a week, calves probably being one of them. But other muscle groups like hamstrings and quads that I think is probably more beneficial to just train twice a week, which obviously can be figured out during making a good 3 day training program that's personalized to me. But honestly, I just really enjoyed having an upper day and a lower day and not having to mix them both together. So yeah, massive fan of a 4 day training program, big tick from me. 4 rep sets or 4 or less rep sets was a no from me. I tried it out, obviously very popular amongst the science-based lifting community on Instagram and TikTok. I tried it for multiple different exercises and honestly just wasn't a huge fan. I can see it would definitely have some benefits and I'm sure certain people it would work for. I just personally found it very difficult to standardize reps. There's really zero room for error if you're with loading. If you stuff it up even by a little bit, you're probably missing a rep. And then when progressing, I found it quite difficult. I could knock out 4 reps and leave 1 rep in reserve. I go to increase the weight very, very slightly. And either I drop a rep or I am like, the reps aren't as pretty or aren't as, tidy as they should be. So standardizing reps became very difficult at that weight. And honestly, just by increasing the reps by additional 1 or 2 reps, so working within that 5 to 8 rep range or 6 to 8 rep range for me, just made everything so much easier and kept my training more standardized and honestly just felt better for me. So that is a no from me for the 4 rep sets or lower. But again, I'm sure there's certain exercises that I could probably manage to do it on. Just overall, I think I'd just rather increase the reps just slightly. Moving on to the last 2, so repeated sessions. So this is one that I am neutral on, only because I've only been doing it for the last 2, maybe 3 months, and I'm just a little bit too soon to cast an exact judgment as to whether or not I love it or dislike it. So far, so good. So what I mean by repeated sessions is in my upper-lower split, 4 days a week, I will repeat the exact same upper session twice a week, exact same exercises. And I've been a really big fan of it. I think I've definitely noticed with clients that I train in person where we do pretty much identical training programs or at least a lot of the same exercises multiple times per week, that they progress a lot faster in those movements and not just through the new gains stage or when they're new to the exercise. It's been a prolonged progression and a noticeable progression difference between that and alternating exercises each session. So neutral, but overall feeling like it's going to be a massive tick if the progression in my training continues the way it has done. So yeah, I think it's something that if you pick certain exercises that you really enjoy and you don't mind the lack of variation in your sessions, it's something that I would consider trialing for yourself and seeing if you notice a difference in your own training. So yeah, so far so good. Going to give it another month or 2 before I make any definitive statement on it based off my own training, of course. The last one is definitely a bit of a controversial one as well. And again, I'm only neutral on it because I have only been doing it for the same amount of time as I've been doing the repeated sessions, so only 2 or 3 months. And it is higher rep sets. And by higher rep sets, I mean sets of say 10 to 15 reps, which for some of you is probably not significantly high. But for me personally, I've been working within the sort of 5 to 8 rep range for the better part of 2.5, 3 years now. So reason I first implemented it to begin with is because I started noticing that when sets were getting quite hard, or I was noticing like discomforting sensations, things like burning, or just reps starting to slow down quite significantly, I was having trouble pushing through and trying to get some of those last couple of grinding reps out and maintaining decent form. So I kind of wanted to just challenge myself a little bit, get used to that burning sensation a little bit more, which I know is kind of things that you kind of want to avoid when strength training. But honestly, we know that there's not a whole lot of difference in growth between 5 reps all the way up to say 30 reps even though I particularly think anything over 15 reps is probably a little bit higher for my liking. So I knew it wasn't going to be a hindrance to my training program, but I just wanted to see if it was going to add some sort of benefit. And again, so far, I have been enjoying the variation, considering I have been repeating upper and lower sessions. So one of my sessions each week is of higher reps, so it adds a little bit of variation to the training program for me. So I've been enjoying that part of it, but also noticing I've been progressing the lighter weight reps on the lighter weights a lot faster than I had been progressing anything else recently. So, and I think that is also starting to spill over into my lower rep days as well. So again, too early for me to say, and because I changed both the repeated sessions and the higher rep sessions at the same time, I think I need to stick with it for at least another few months before I can cast any definitive judgment again. But so far, been really enjoying it and think that definitely has some benefits to just getting used to those uncomfortable sensations and being able to push some of your sets a little bit harder and even especially when you're at the top end of the rep range on your lower rep days. Yeah, really going for that sort of 7, 8, 9 rep mark becomes a lot easier, I've noticed anyway, for those. So they're all of the training experiments, I suppose you'd call them, for 2025. They're what I liked, what I didn't like. Yeah, I would encourage you to try any of those that I liked. And even the ones I didn't like, you can try them out for yourself and see if it helps you progress your training and helps your performance in the gym, because overall that is all we really care about when we are strength training. If something is of benefit to you and it is helping you and assisting you get stronger for a prolonged period of time, that is what you want. So try any of those things that I've just mentioned, particularly the ones that I liked or at least neutral about, and let me know how you go. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more videos, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.